Hello and welcome to the Street Crime UK YouTube channel. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Today we look at 6 men who are being sentenced at Basildon Crown Court after a man was fatally stabbed to death in Westcliff. Wesley Hendrickson and Leon Wright face life in prison for murder. 4 other men were acquitted of murder but are being sentenced for aggravated burglary. The fatal raid happened on December 12, 2019. Mr. Hendrickson and Mr. Wright, who murdered Askeri Spaho to death at a property in Tintern Avenue, Westcliff. Mr. Wright, 31, of Highbury New Park, collapsed in the dock with his head in his hands after the jury of 8 men and 4 women confirmed their verdicts. Mr. Hendrickson, 31, of Ashford Crescent in Enfield, showed no emotion as his guilty verdicts for murder, attempted murder and aggravated burglary were read out. However, he later stormed out of the dock. The duo, along with 4 other men, had denied driving up from London to Westcliff, armed with swords and packing equipment to steal the cannabis plants. The duo stabbed Mr. Spaho and another man who were working as gardeners in the farm. Shocking footage from police officers' body cameras showed blood on the walls as they attended the property following the murder. During the trial, the jury heard from witnesses such as the investigating police officer and the officers who first attended the scene. Giving evidence, Mr. Wright claimed he had no idea that people would be in the property and that they only went to steal the plants, but he was ambushed when they broke in. 4 other men were acquitted by the jury of murder and attempted murder but were convicted of aggravated burglary. Mitchell Harris, 29, of No Fixed Address, Scott Heaney, 22, of Hurlock Street, Highbury, Brian Kinlosh, 31, of Beechcroft Way, Upper Holloway, and Dorald Sokoli, 27, of Ely Croft, Enfield, will be sentenced at the same court along with 2 other murderers. Mr. Wright and Mr. Hendrickson, both from North London, were found guilty of murder and were sentenced at Basildon Crown Court to a minimum jail term of 30 years. Detective Inspector Greg Wood said those sentenced committed crimes driven by greed and violence, and sadly it cost Mr. Spaho his life. Mr. Wright and Mr. Hendrickson have received lengthy sentences for murder and others for their part in the burglary, which rightfully reflects the terrible consequences of that night. I want this to be a message to anyone involved in similar circles. We will not tolerate violent crime in Essex, and we won't let drug crime slip under the radar either. The group Mr. Wright, Mr. Hendrickson, Mitchell Harris, Scott Heaney, Brian Kinlosh and Gerald Sokoli had met in London with a plan to burgle the property. They armed themselves and travelled to Southend-on-Sea before going to Tintern Avenue in Westcliff-on-Sea and breaking into the address through a bathroom window. 2 people were inside were stabbed, including Mr. Spaho, who died at the scene. Officers found cannabis plants being grown in 2 rooms and in the loft. Mr. Wright of Highbury New Park in Highbury was found guilty of attempted murder and pleaded guilty to aggravated burglary and was ordered to serve a minimum term of 11,314 days. Mr. Hendrickson of Ashford Crescent in Enfield, who denied all charges, was found guilty of attempted murder and aggravated burglary and ordered to serve a minimum term of 11,247 days. Mr. Sokoli, 28, of Ely Croft, Enfield, Mr. Kinlosh, 32, of Beechcroft Way, Archway, Mr. Heaney, 23, of Hurlock Street, Highbury, and Mr. Harris, 29, of No Known Address, were each jailed for 13 years. So what are your thoughts about this London murder conspiracy that saw 6 men, 2 sentenced to life in prison, were in court over the murder of Mr. Spaho? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, stay safe.